Welcome, engineers. My name is Travis IQ, and today we're talking cybersecurity news. Cybersecurity news again. Now, we don't cover all of the cybersecurity news topics, but we do talk about some of the craziest ones, and this one is wild. So you'll see the link to the news article behind me here. According to Reuters, hackers believed to be working for Russia and Russian state actors gained access to U.S. Treasury, Commerce Department emails through security and event management software built into SolarWinds. SolarWinds is a giant SEM system, event management utility that is used by tons of organizations, tons of Fortune 500 companies, all 5 branches of the U.S. military. I mean, this is wild stuff. So let's think about kind of what happened here and have a quick discussion. So the attack was extremely sophisticated, both technically and logistically. What does that mean, technically and logistically? Okay, so the malicious content of the delivered code was technically very complex, right? But also the methodology of delivery, right? So we talk about things like vectors and payloads. So you can have a payload like a backdoor or something like this that allows you access to a system, that allows you to pivot and escalate privileges and things like this. But the vector is also just as important, right? And so in this case, it was a sophisticated supply chain attack that actually affected SolarWinds updates of a specific product that they were implementing in environments, right? And so the product is the Orion product suite, which is a management utility for SNMP, syslog, WMI, ICMP. If you're interested in, these management utilities and what their purposes are, we talk about these things on the channel, so check us out. But yeah, that's what they were doing, is leveraging the issues in this product. Right, the updates were pushed between March and June of 2020. This video is being recorded and delivered to you here in December, so that was a long time ago. That means that this issue has been pervasive. This is scary stuff. So we were like in the middle of this incident response, right? We call this DFIR, Digital Forensics and Investigative Response. So we're in the middle of this DFIR process, but we do know what happened. Brian Krebs reported that the researchers found malicious content was designed to act on 2-week delays. So that means that even earlier than March, potentially, there could have been malicious content downloaded. You might say, well, then how do they avoid things like antivirus and monitoring systems that might have been identifying these utilities as potentially malicious? Well, here's an interesting thing. SolarWinds actually said that its product would only work properly if the directories were exempted from AV and group policy restrictions. So antivirus scanning and group policy restrictions. So there's another great place to put malicious content if you're a hacker and you have the skills and the wherewithal to produce a supply chain attack like this, right? Which is pretty wild. One of the craziest parts of the whole story, I mean, the whole thing's crazy, right? But the way the thing came about is even wilder. A week or two ago, FireEye, which is another cybersecurity company, actually people noticed an issue where FireEye's internal pen testing utilities and scanning utilities were being leveraged against US-based targets. So FireEye came out and had to admit publicly that their utilities were stolen by a Russian hacking group known as Advanced Persistent Threat 29, aka Cozy Bear. They always have some wild names in these things. And those Russian hackers were known to be associated with the Russian state, right? So not just from the state of Russia, but actually associated with Russian state activities. Okay, so FireEye notices this issue. FireEye goes back and does their own incident response. They look into the incident and notice that the malicious code that was executed was actually signed, had a legitimate signature from a SolarWinds certificate. The SolarWinds certificate, lo and behold, was distributed between March and May of 2020. They publish this or reach out to SolarWinds, whichever you want to say in terms of how they just responsibly disclose this info. SolarWinds goes back and looks, and they conduct another internal investigation, and as these things are coming out, we've got some more info, right? But right now, right, SolarWinds goes, okay, this is actually was accurate. They were manipulating actual certificates, so they were manipulating the supply chain associated with SolarWinds distribution of code and updates, and it was specifically affecting the Orion utility. This is just absolutely nuts. I know that there was a lot to unpack in there, and we kind of talked about a bunch of components. We'll probably use this as a framework to talk about some other things in cybersecurity, as we are kind of like a cybersec education channel. But this is just a wild story, and it will continue to evolve. Maybe we'll do like a part 2 or something like that. As is always the case, like and subscribe if you want more cybersecurity and educational cybersec content, and engineer, break stuff, and have fun.